that is when I knew that I'm playing with my life and I need to learn Mandarin 100 times over. Like I would definitely do it over and over again. Yeah. It's job. Like whether you get the numbers or not, this is what I want to do.
Okay, Sbahle, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to have this interview and talk about brand building. And yeah, man, really excited.
So we have two options that we're going to ask you regarding various things. So it doesn't mean that you necessarily like or dislike these things. So I think the audience will decide what they're actually about. First thing, Phuket or Bali?
Definitely Phuket.
Instagram or YouTube?
YouTube.
Okay, Montessori or international schools?
International school.
And Shenzhen or Shanghai?
I've never spent a long time in Shenzhen, so I feel like Shanghai is the better option for me because I've been there, I've spent time there, so yeah, Shanghai.
Talking head or vlogs?
I would say sit down videos. Yeah, sit down videos are probably, I would choose that over a vlog any day. So yeah.
You guys will have to decide what this is about. So if you want to find out more about what we just spoke about, do follow Sbahle. She does have an active community on both Instagram and YouTube. We're going to get straight into the interview. So Sbahle, please introduce yourself. Who are you? What are you basically up to? And yeah, just a bit about your background and whatever you like to share with our community, basically.
Sure. So I'm Sbahle Mkhize, like Malebo said. I am from South Africa and I've been in China now for 5 years, living here as an expat and an educator. I'm also now a content creator and I've been doing that now since 2021 from Pietermaritzburg, which is a very small town in KZN, a small city in KZN. Yeah, I love blogging. I love creating content, traveling, making memories with my close people in my life. Pretty much that's it.
What are 3 words that define content creation in your view?
I think when I think about content creation, I think about authenticity, just to be authentic. I think about consistency. And when I talk about consistency, I just think if you're going to start content creation, you need to build a routine, you need to be consistent. And lastly, I would say it has to be really real and just, I think it echoes more what I said about authenticity. It needs to be real. It needs to be something that comes from someone who's really taken the time to figure out what the viewers love and what they need. And so content creation really is you finding out what you are passionate about and what people will love to see and making sure that is translated on camera as well.
And what made you start creating content and when did you start?
So I started in 2021 when I still lived in Beijing. One of the reasons why I started was because around that time we were still recovering from lockdowns. And yeah, man, I got really lonely, if I'm being very honest. I needed an outlet. And at the time, we couldn't travel, we couldn't do anything, but we could, move around Beijing and the areas that I was in. So I started just, documenting that in hopes that that will keep me busy and that will kind of keep me active. I was always someone who really loved documenting my life in China on Instagram because I did have a little following there. So it was really encouraging to hear people liking what they see. And I think YouTube was kind of like, rather Instagram was the catalyst that got me into YouTube. I was someone who really watched a lot of YouTube content. I knew that I had wanted to do something like this. I just was really nervous and had a lot of self-doubt. But when I started, I remember at the time, I just knew that I had nothing to lose. And, if people didn't watch, it wouldn't be the end of the world. It was a tough pill to swallow to know that you could not have success on the platform. But it's just one of those things where you got to just have faith and just throw yourself in it and just start. So yeah, that's when I started.
Why YouTube and Instagram? I think you've explained how like the journey went from Instagram to YouTube, but why do you predominantly focus on those 2 platforms versus, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and the other platforms? And do you even try and have a community on those other platforms? So maybe just share with us how that all works out on your end.
I believe that as content creators, we need to do what feels good to us. And so when I started, for me, YouTube and Instagram was what felt good to me. I didn't have to force anything. Very important to grow and transform as a content creator. So that is why people have moved from Instagram to TikTok and things like that. I've honestly just been very stagnant in that element. I really need to get on TikTok. I think that that's a great platform to also produce content. There's a lot of success on TikTok. For me, there wasn't really a preference thing or like, oh, I don't want to go on TikTok or I don't want to go on Twitter. It really just has been something that feels good and easy and convenient for me. I have Instagram on my phone. I have YouTube on my phone. As you might know, living in China, it's a little tricky to get TikTok and all these other apps that aren't easily accessible. So those two have been easy for me to access and kind of navigate as a content creator. And so that is what I've stuck to. I think if I was to have more access geographically and be somewhere in another country, I would definitely be able to produce more content on TikTok as well as Twitter. I think there's huge success on all those platforms if one takes the time to kind of produce content there too.
I think you've already like mentioned how it all started, but is there anything that is facilitating your content creation journey in terms of being in China? Is there something that you feel like, okay, if I was in South Africa or if I was in another country, I wouldn't necessarily be able to create content? Is there things that allow you to create content basically, or that facilitate the content creation journey for you by predominantly being here, location based wise?
Definitely. I think when I came to China in 2019, I didn't have, I would say, someone that I could watch on YouTube and see what kind of life they live in China. I did feel like there wasn't a lot of representation, especially for someone who looks like me. One of the things that made my channel, I would say, really get a big reach was because a lot of people were seeking what I was seeking at the time, which is representation, an idea of what my life will look like, how things work, and also just like more information about life in China as an expat. So that is when I would say for my channel and kind of getting me off the ground was me kind of sharing my life and sharing how I go about my life as a teacher in China. Eventually, you know, people after they get through that, they really want to know more about you. And so that is why I have kind of evolved less into content creation in the classroom and more about my day-to-day life, collaborations, what I eat, what I put on my skin. People are more interested in Sbahle, the brand. And so that is, I think, my kind of evolving that has happened on YouTube. It started off as me sharing information as a South African living in China and teaching in China, giving people information on how to get here. And then people start to fall in love with you, I guess, and they start to want to know more about you and what you put on your skin and what are you wearing, etc., etc. And so I think that happened organically, and I think that really gave me kind of the confidence to keep going.
And do you think that content creation market within China is saturated at this point, especially for South Africans, or do you think that the market still needs more people that need to be creating content? As you said, that the reason you started or what facilitated the journey and the growth back then was the fact that you felt like there was a need for representation. Do you still share those sentiments, or you feel like now it's a bit more crowded, or it's a bit more, not that there isn't a need per se, but maybe, you know, there's enough representation? What are your thoughts around that?
I think there isn't enough representation. I believe that the people who watch my channel can relate to me and my story and my upbringing and the personality that I have. But I believe that there are many other groups of people that don't relate with me. And so those people still need to be represented. I still think that we need more content creators who are moms, who are living in China, families that are living and navigating in China, blended families, because all of that exists here, you know, different races. I think there's still room for more different types of content creators, especially the fact that we come from a country that is very diverse, Rainbow Nation. There's not enough diversity in that way, I believe. And so I don't feel like it's saturated. I just think it needs a little bit more diversity. And I think even with our stories, it's, as the content creators that are here already, we are all very different in our own ways, even though we might have the same titles in the videos and things like that. But I think we all have different approaches, different quality, different things that we say. So it really is one understanding that people have their different.
So your content currently caters predominantly for South Africans. Do you have plans to cater to an international audience, or what is your plan around that? So maybe just share if there's any plans in the pipeline to say, okay, maybe I'd like to reach other audiences and so forth.
There's definitely room for improvement in that element. When I look at my content, I try to make it very inclusive in terms of I speak English. And so I do find that I do have a bit of an international audience. One of the main reasons what you've mentioned is that most of my how-to videos, how to move to China, are catered for South Africans, because I know the South South African market well. And so it's easier for me to make videos like that. But I think it's important to investigate ways to reach a bigger audience. I think also partnering up with brands has helped me reach a wider audience. I think that has also really expanded my reach. But yeah, in the future, I definitely would love to kind of expand my reach, diversify my content a bit. I think also as I grow up as a woman, I'm entering different facets of my life. So that will also give me more of a reach. I think when I become a mom, when I become a wife, when I become a whatever it is may be, I will be able to make content that is going to kind of bring in different audiences and different people who can relate. And so, yeah, I think for me, I'm not rushing that process because I want it to be organic as possible. I value the following that I have, and I'm nurturing the people that are following me. And I think those who come on board should also be organic. When the time is right, I will get a wider range of followers.
So I think you've already mentioned this part of organic reach and organic growth. Over the years, you've obviously amassed like a huge following, especially when we look at YouTube, which is quite a difficult platform to navigate for most people. Getting to 10,000 subscribers, someone was sharing the stats that it's actually not so many people that are even able to get 10,000 subscribers. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
What are some of the things that you do to organically achieve the success that you currently have? If someone was like, okay, in 2 or 3 years of me having my channel, I'd like to have maybe about, I think you are almost at 30K now. The last time I checked, you were counting down to 30K. So how can someone try and organically grow? Because I know obviously you can pump ads and all those things, which I haven't seen anything of that sort from your end. How can someone try to organically grow, especially on YouTube, which is quite a difficult platform to grow on?
I think people sometimes confuse organic growth with just taking it very light and being nonchalant about it. I think the organic part is when you switch on the camera, but the behind the scenes needs to be very intentional because that's how you're going to grow. So when it talks about just your strategy, that needs to be planned. Like I'm talking what video titles, thumbnails, your shooting schedule, all of that. Like those are the things that really helped me to remain consistent because there are days where you don't feel like it. And so when you don't have the structures in place, it's very difficult to switch on the camera and start shooting. But when there are structures, there are schedules, there are titles in place, you kind of don't spend time, thinking about things and what am I going to wear and all that. But if you plan meticulously, I think that will really help you kind of start to build a system. I think also having systems will help you when there's no external motivation. So for example, when you're not hitting the numbers that you want, your systems are still going to get you up to create content because you need to do your job. Like whether you get the numbers or not, this is what I want to do. And when you don't have systems, it's easy to just be like, ah, let me just leave it because no one is watching. But I think the systems make you accountable to yourself. And then over time, you have people who are actually waiting for you. Like, oh, where's the video on Monday at 6 o'clock? You said you're going to post. Over time, I think another thing that helped me was to set a goal to say, I want to produce 100 videos in 2022. I was like, I want to make 100 videos. I don't care about the numbers. I don't care about who watches or not. I'm just going to make 100 videos. And that kind of helped me to kind of increase my reach, and the algorithm rewarded me over time. I think people look for instant, overnight success, going viral. But sometimes, are you ready to maintain the audience of going viral? One of the things I always say to people is that I'm okay with my 30K and slowly growing because I'm also still building my systems to be able to maintain 30K viewers and to be able to maintain 40K, 50K, etc., etc. It's a game of discipline. It's a game of knowing what you are doing in terms of your content, and the rest will fall into place. I think for me, once I built the systems around me, it was easy for me to just switch on the camera and be myself because I didn't have to think about, oh, is this okay? Is that okay? Because I had mastered the skills of editing, of lighting, of this, because I had a system in place and I got better and better at it. So yeah, I think build systems, be consistent, have a goal in terms of videos in the year. Don't focus too much on the numbers in your first 2 years. I used to say in the first year, but really it's the first 2 years. Oh, that's the time where you really are honing your craft. Also, develop as a creator, develop in terms of your camera equipment. don't use the same thing for a year. I think you need to kind of give people an upgraded experience so people see your growth. I also think that you need to take it seriously. How you show up is how people will take your channel. If you need to put on a little beat before your sit down videos, do it, because it shows that you're putting effort into your videos and you're taking them seriously, and they will start to take you seriously. Plan some of your stuff if you need to, because I feel like as people, sometimes we do go on little rants and we go off track and people lose focus. You know what I mean? The best advice I got in the beginning was good quality video and good sound. Those are your two things that will really keep people glued to your screen. Just investment in the craft is so important because that will reward you in the end.
As a segue to the next question, you have named quite a number of things that lead to a person succeeding as a content creator. So what are your top 3 things that help you level up your game as a content creator?
I would say my top 3 would be investment in my craft. When I say my craft, like I invested in a good tripod, I invested in a good camera, I invested in understanding how my camera works and how to get the best and the most out of my camera. I think one of the things that makes me stand out from the rest is the quality of my content. I also think that my strategies in putting the content together in terms of music selection, thumbnails, and all of that, I invested money into subscriptions for websites like Canva, as well as different platforms where I'm using to get music. And then the last one, I would say probably being myself. Like I never changed. I think if I watch my first video and my video today, I feel like someone who's watched me, probably you can see the nerves, you can see, okay, she's a little scared, but my personality is there. I'm still the same person. And so that for me has been one of the things I feel that have made me stand out. My personality, investment in my equipment, and investment in my resources like music, thumbnails, and things like that. That has really given me the edge amongst my peers. People might disagree, but I think when I look at it from the outside in, I could say those are the things that kind of, or maybe I would say also just like taking time to plan what I'm putting on my videos. A lot of feedback I get is that's why your stuff is so easy to absorb. You've really taken the time to give us information that is simplified. So I think taking time to do that instead of just taking something from Google and just putting it on YouTube, really engaging with my content before I give it to my people has really helped them kind of absorb it and ingest the content so that they can better equip themselves.
Last question when it comes to content creation. So what are 5 things you love about teaching and content creation within the Chinese space, basically?
You're saying 5 things that I love about teaching and content creation at the same time?
Yes, some can be related to teaching, others could be related to content creation, or a bit of both, or I think content creation can be like teaching in a bit, so because with some of your sit down videos, you're essentially teaching people about different things that they need to understand. So yeah, with that, so what are 5 things that you love about teaching and creating content within China, basically?
I would say the great thing about what I get to do is that I get to do what I love, which is teaching and content creation at the same time, and kind of put those two loves together. One of my favorite vlogs are bringing the camera into the classroom because people get to see what teaching is like and what I do in the classroom. I don't really have the on and off button. It just feels like it's a continuation of my life, and I'm just putting the camera up and documenting it. I think I'm both a teacher on and off the camera. I'm generally someone who likes to take the time to help people, and so to be able to do that is one of my favorite things. To have my passion be translated on camera is really something that I don't take for granted. I also think that creating content has opened up so many opportunities for me, and also just open up my mind to much more opportunities in the space outside of brand deals, but also just understanding that I am a brand on my own, and so I have so much influence, and just not just making people to buy things, rather switch their mindsets about things, challenge people to kind of think differently about things, and that people actually take my advice seriously. That is something that I value a lot, and I take that to heart. You know what I mean? So it's super important for me when it comes to what I put out there, because I really need to think about what I'm saying. And so I love that it's challenged me as a person to reevaluate the way I think, to be aware about I might have people who don't agree with me. How do I pay together and package things? I love that I'm taking more time to learn more about makeup and different things that are aligned with personal brands. And because what we do is a lot about the face and, how you present yourself. So being a content creator has really forced me to take time and put effort in how I present myself. I generally was someone who really did that, but really this has elevated the way I present myself. And I love that. I love that for myself. I love that I want better for myself, be good at something else other than teaching or, you know what I mean? Like earning an extra skill. And then the last thing, yeah, I would say the brand deals. Yeah, I love it. It's really good to get free stuff. I'm not going to lie and say it's not great. It's really nice to get free things sent to you. So, yeah, those are the 5 things I would say.
Yes, so now we're going to move to a life in China as a South African. So I have a couple of questions that I would like for you to just answer some of them. So what are some of the things that have shaped and changed how you see yourself since you came to China? So is there any pivotal moments that you've had or any experiences that you have said that, okay, if I didn't come to China, I wouldn't have, been this way, or I wouldn't have done this, or I wouldn't have thought this way. So how has being in China challenged you, like mentally, and your personality as well? Has it been in some way changed or shaped differently?
Yeah, definitely. I think moving to China has gotten me out of the box, the safety box that I think most of us are in when we live in SA. We have our family nearby, we have our friends. So we are very hyper dependent on them when it comes to things going wrong. So being an expat and living abroad has really made me, grow some thick skin. And I know that I have the ability to withstand a lot of things. I survived a whole lockdown, and so that has really tested my character. It's tested my resilience side and outside of my career. I also believe that I've become a very disciplined person because of the life that we live here and because of the things that I've chosen to do with my free time. I've got a really good work ethic that I don't know I would have been able to grow or hone while living in South Africa. I'm definitely more intentional. I used to think that a lot of things would just come to me. I deserve these things should come to me. But I think now I'm super intentional about how I spend my time, what I want to do with my time, how much effort I put into things, and understanding that those intentions will reap results over time. And so things are not owed to me. I need to work for things. A lot of the stuff that have kind of honed my personality have been very internal, and I'm so grateful for that. Yeah, I really believe my confidence levels have also drastically improved over the years. I think my self-worth and understanding what I deserve and what I don't deserve and being able to vocalize that have come from me being able to enter spaces that I never thought I would be able to enter. So getting out of my comfort zone has really helped me grow as Sbahle the individual.
This decision is regarding, the decision that you made, I think about, is it 2019?
2019, yeah.
So if you had to make that decision again as to whether or not you move to China, knowing what you now know, decision would you make? Would it be coming here or staying in South Africa?
I think the viewers agree. Definitely coming to China. I would do it again 100 times over. Like I would definitely do it over and over again. Yeah.
I don't know how good is your Mandarin at this point. If maybe you were to give it a rating out of a percentage to say, yeah, how far you are from being fluent.
I don't want to be overconfident because the one thing about Mandarin will humble you. But I think I'm a solid 50%. I know more than I did last year, which is a huge achievement for me. I could definitely learn more and practice more. It's a little tough because our school does require us not to speak Chinese to the kids. So I don't really have opportunities to practice during the day because I am at work most of the day. But I try as much as I can to practice my Mandarin over the weekends with my delivery guys and wherever I.
In the past 5 years or so of being in China, has there been an instance where you felt like, okay, if only I knew how to speak Mandarin? Obviously, we have translators, and I use sign language. Whenever I explain to people that I survive by sign language, I never even whip out my translator. I just use sign language and I survive. I don't know how you've been doing it. Things, and eventually, me and the person that I'm talking to, we end up understanding Has there been such an instance where you're like, okay, if only I knew Chinese?
Absolutely. I think this was my turning point to learn Chinese. I've been to hospitals before, but it was when I was really, really ill and I didn't know what was going on and they couldn't tell me either. That's when I realized that, okay, I need to learn Mandarin. I think when it comes to your health and comes to understanding what's happening with your body, when the doctor cannot tell you what the diagnosis is and they need to translate and the translator is still not getting the point across, that is when I knew that I'm playing with my life and I need to learn Mandarin. You know what I mean? So for me, it was all the times that I'd been to the hospital before. It was like, okay, this is getting not good. I think when I got very ill, that's when I was like, okay, I need to take this seriously and invest because I don't have anyone with me when I go to the hospitals, and I'm generally someone who's very like I'm fearless. Like I will go to the hospital by myself. I don't need anyone to go with me. But I realized that they couldn't tell me what was going on with my body. So that's when I realized that I'm putting my life at risk. I am putting myself at risk of getting the wrong medication or not understanding what's happening in my body. And that could mean detrimental things in the future. So I need to learn enough to have a conversation with the doctor. So yeah, that is for me was my turning point. I think many of us can relate, especially people who are here in China, how hospitals, getting around, getting lost and not being able to communicate is such a difficult thing. It's worse when you don't even have your phone with you. You cannot do anything. So yeah, TPR can only get you some at some point.
Exactly. One of my videos where I was sharing culture shocks, it's the fact that if you ask any random Chinese person, and because you're a foreigner, what they'll do is like there's this little notion that they always do, like just like
Immediately. They're like, no.
there's no getting past that unless you know how to speak Mandarin. Once you get the hand,
They're not
that's
going to
it.
say a
Just know
word
this
to you
person is not gonna
again.
help
Yes.
you.
Like,
They're not
no,
gonna help
ma'am.
you. And it's just
Yeah.
like, no, ma'am. So, what advice would you give someone trying to come to China to work or potentially create content?
Coming to China to work and potentially create content. So do both.
Both, or yeah, either or. I don't even know if there are any full-time content creators that just come to China for that. I've seen a lot in
Okay.
Japan and Korea, but I haven't seen a lot of.
Yes, yes. And I don't think we'd be able to, like, which visa will give us full-time content creator status unless you are working with company. Yeah, I would say, like, if you are moving to China and your goal is to one day create content, I think that's a great thing to do. Firstly, take your time in starting your content creation journey. I think first find your feet in China. If you are someone who's having difficulty with your paperwork and things like that, I think focus on getting that done. And then when you get here, really focus on getting yourself established. If you are someone who wants to document the journey of getting established, that's fine too. But I do believe it gets overwhelming. And, having to kind of put up a camera every time you're going through something, could be beneficial to someone to kind of be like, ah, I can see this person's going through this. I can relate. But also at the same time, at what cost? I think sometimes content creation shouldn't come before your heart and your healing and your processes that are happening on the inside. I think people can pick up when you're not okay. And so sometimes just pour into yourself first before you can pour into others. So yeah, man, I would say focus on getting yourself to China, focus on getting yourself established, then start to plan your content, plan your voice, plan what kind of content you want to create, and focusing on your 100 videos, focusing on your craft, learn how to edit your videos yourself, learn how to select your own music, learn how to make your own thumbnails, learn how to make shorts, because now we are in the short content, we're in that era now. So learn how to make shorts, learn how to make reels, diversify yourself, and yeah, have fun with it. That's the number one thing.
All right. Thanks, Sbahle. So we've basically reached the end. So any closing remarks, your social media handles as well, and anything that you'd like to share with our Bolovies Vaga community living?
All right, Bolovies. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please do follow me on Instagram at let's_sba_blossom. You can also find me on YouTube, Sbahle Mkhize. And yeah, man, let's engage. Follow along my content if you want to see life in China as a Black woman navigating as well as content creation. And yeah, man, thank you so much, Molebo, for having me. I'm really, really excited to see what else you do with this platform, and having different people on here to hear different voices, I think is super important. So yeah, thank you very much.